I want to call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen meeting to order at 6:30. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let the record show that Selectman Labrie is with us on phone, speakerphone this evening. Since we have nobody in the audience, I guess nobody's audio recording. Selectmen's comments.
I have none at this time.
I have just two things. First, I would like to remind everyone about the election this Monday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Senior Center, 52 Murdoch Ave. It's really critical that you come out to this election. I mean, I know a lot of the candidates are running uncontested races, but we do have a two-year school committee position, which we have 3 candidates who are vying for this. It would be really impressive if we could get a big turnout, because that hopefully would encourage others to run, seeing that the support they would get from the town. On another note, we received news today that Selectman Amy Salter's mother passed away yesterday afternoon. Our thoughts and prayers are with Amy and her family at this time, and I would ask that we take a moment of silence for Amy, her mother, and family. Thank you. No public comments or announcements. So first thing under new business is vote for a letter of support for community project funding for fiscal year '23. I'll turn this over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is an initiative right now that's rolling through the federal government, and my office has been in communication with Representative Trahan's office down in Washington, D.C., to try to see if we can secure a earmark on one of the vehicles in the larger federal budget to try to bring in some potential funding to address a 900-foot stretch of pipe north of Central Street. It's a 10-inch diameter pipe, undersized, and the pipe that we're presently replacing on Central Street is a 12-inch diameter pipe. So realistically, anything that we're tying into is going to be reduced to that 10-inch amount, and where there isn't funding available at this time to do that, we felt it was an appropriate amount. They said ballpark about $500,000 would potentially be available, and so in submitting this and working with Director Croto to try to determine the scope of the project, this is one of the instances where we went ahead and had preliminary designs done on the off chance that funding may come available. So funding has potentially come available, and we have a design in hand. One other interesting component of this is one of the boxes to check is whether or not we have kind of the set capital plan that's going to be addressed in the second to last article on the annual town meeting. So we don't have that in place yet, but that I think is conveniently just a good example of the benefit of the capital asset management plan for water and sewer. But with that said, we have received letters of support from my office, obviously, from our State House delegation, and we are requesting the Board of Selectmen also submit the attached letter to show their support for securing the funding as well.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns from the board? No? Then I'll entertain, I believe you provided a motion, possible motion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I move to authorize the chair or her designee to sign a letter of support for the community project fiscal year '23 on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
So, because we have a member not with us in the building, we will do a roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
And Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. So that one's passed. So now we're moving on to the vote, the recommendations of the special town meeting, annual town meeting warrant articles. So basically, the procedure I would like to go through is I'll give a brief description, very brief, just mainly a title and what it's about. We'll get a motion to either recommend, not recommend, or pass over. Get a second, and then we can have any boss members, if you have anything you want to say at this point about the article, and then we'll do a roll call vote. So first up on the agenda, and I guess, as everyone knows, the Finance Committee already went through and made all their recommendations. They recommended 7-0 for all the articles, except for Article 1 under the special town meeting, which is reports of the Finance Committee, since they're going to do it under the annual town meeting piece. So they voted to pass over that one. So the first article is any reports of the Finance Committee, and again, this will come up a few articles down. So I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to pass over Article 1 in the special town meeting.
And can I get a second?
Second.
And roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. So that one passes.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll just note that Chairman Labrie is having trouble hearing, so if everybody can speak up a little
Okay,
extra.
good. Article 2, basically to vote free cash sum of $8,412.93 for the payment of prior fiscal year bills. And I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Article 2 of the special town meeting.
Second.
And roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. Article 3 is to take $35,000 from ARPA to offset the sewer enterprise fund budget.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes?
this is Selectman Labrie. I move to approve Article 3.
Second.
And this is to recommend?
Yes, to recommend. My apologies.
Yes.
Recommend approval.
Okay, it's been seconded. And roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. Moving on to the annual town meeting items. Article 1 is to hear any reports from committees, and we've been told that the Finance Committee will have a report.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to recommend Article 1.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 2, this is if there are any committees to be discontinued or created. And again, the Finance Committee did recommend this one. We don't know at this time, right now, we don't have any committees being dissolved.
Correct, not through this article. There's a later article in the charter and bylaw changes that would strike language for an existing healthcare committee that was implemented about 7 years ago, but no one was ever appointed to it. So for the sake of this article, no, but we can do a deeper dive when we get into the other one.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to recommend Article 2.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 3 is the revolving funds authorization article, and we have the list of revolving funds.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to recommend Article 3.
I'll second.
It's been made and seconded. For roll call vote, Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
I am going to abstain as I am connected with the Agricultural Commission.
Okay, noted. And the Vice Chair votes aye. And so that one passes. Article 4, Senior Tax Work-Off. This is for the $8,800 for the Senior Tax Work-Off Program.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the board recommend approval of Article 4, Senior Tax Work-Off.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Noted. Roll call vote, Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. Article 5 is the nonprofit assistance for the Community Action Committee in the amount of $25,000.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I do need to declare, and I'm going to do it again as I did Monday, that there's a slight possibility that in the future my family might have a very slight financial interest in the CAC, as my daughter might become an employee. I'm told I don't need to abstain, just declare, but I'm going to abstain just to be safe.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to recommend Article 5.
Can I get a...
Vice Chair, I will second.
Okay, good. And the vote, roll call vote, Selectman Lapointe,
I abstain.
Selectman Anderson,
Aye.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and the Vice Chair votes aye. Article 6. Yep. And this is the total overall operating budget in the amount of $16,001,424. And,
Mr. Vice Chair,
yes,
I move that the board recommend approval of Article 6.
Second.
and a roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe,
Aye.
Selectman Anderson,
Aye.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and I have to also make a statement on this one. For the sake of transparency, I want to let the board know that my adult son, who is a full-time dispatcher in Keene, New Hampshire, is sometimes contacted by the local dispatch center to fill a shift they are unable to fill with their staff. I filled out the proper forms, the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest with the state. It's now available at the, in the town office. And in that, filling out that, I felt that there was no conflict because that's such a small piece of this big budget. So I will be voting aye. And so that passes. Okay. Article 7 is the Water Enterprise Fund. And you have that before you, and I'm not going into all those numbers.
Oh, come on, you can't explain that?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes,
I move that the board recommend approval of Article 7.
and can I get a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay,
The problem that I have is actually more in the motion that we made to raise the water rates for 2 years consecutively. I really feel that had we done it for 1 year, understanding that in order for the town manager and DPW director to make a budget, they were counting on the 2-year commitment. I'm not comfortable with it. There's nothing that says we can't revisit water rates in 6 months or in 3 months. And I think what I have a problem with is getting hit with these water increases once a year without ever going back and looking at them more frequently. And I would feel more comfortable if we knew that somebody wasn't pacifying me to say, here, just pass this and we'll be fine. I want to keep coming back to these water issues. I want to make sure we're staying on top of it. I want to make sure I'm holding your feet to the fire, if you will, that we're doing everything we possibly can for the residents of Winchendon. And that's my problem. So I just wanted to be super clear. It's not actually on the figures. It's the fact that I don't feel we're doing a good enough job of revisiting this as frequently as we should as water commissioners.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
I'm going to vote in favor of recommending this, but I do want to, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm a bit uncomfortable with it. I would have liked to perhaps see the $70,000 from ARPA funding staying there, understanding that there are other needs that we can use ARPA funding on, and maybe even decreasing the increase that we voted on for this year, because we did that based on a deficit of $70,000. We didn't do it based on a deficit of $29,000 or $30,000. I think that would have been better for our residents and something we should have looked at. So I'm a little uncomfortable.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
No.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Next is Article 8, the Wastewater Enterprise Fund.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Selectmen recommend approval of Article 8.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I'm just going to say I will be voting no for the same reason as stated above, that I feel like, I really strongly feel that getting hit with this once a year is just not doing justice.
Okay. Any other discussion? No. Roll call vote on Article 8. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
No.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 9 is the Transfer Station Enterprise.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Vice Chair.
Oop. Go ahead, Ms. Labrie.
Oh, thank you. I move that the Board recommend approval of Article 9.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Next is the School Department Budget, Article 10, for total is $15,604,992.02.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
I would make a motion that we recommend Article 10.
Second.
Been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 11 is the Montezuma Regional Vocational Technical School assessment for $702,108. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Vice-
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
make a motion to recommend Article 11.
I will second that.
Made and seconded, any discussion? None? Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. Article 12 is the appropriation capital improvements for fiscal year 2023, free cash. These include the town hall repairs, cupola, road paving, Phase 2 repairs for the library, radio project match, and live scan fingerprint scanner.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes,
I would like to make a motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
and it's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. Article 13, appropriation for capital improvements for fiscal year 2023, five-year borrowing. And these include DPW roofs, excavator and trailer, pumper truck replacement. And can I get a
Mr.
motion?
Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to recommend Article 13.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 14, appropriation capital improvements for fiscal year 2023, transfer station enterprise fund. And this is $54,697. It's a transfer station vehicle.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to recommend Article 14.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. Article 15, appropriation capital improvements for fiscal year 2023, grants and other sources. These are for a front-end loader, a wheeled excavator, trailed Vector, cruiser replacement, and project design funding.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to recommend Article 15.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Article 16, appropriation, ambulance payment, free cash. This is amount of $60,404 for the purposes of paying the last year of debt service for the 2016 ambulance.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes,
I would make a motion to approve Article 16. Recommend, sorry.
recommend.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I'd like to just make a correction, and unfortunately, we'll have to go to print this way because it was placed that way, but it's actually the 2020 ambulance.
It's a 2020?
And not the 2016. And in addition, the scheduled payoff is in 2025, so we'll just be covering the fiscal year 23 payment.
Can you clarify that again? I'm sorry.
So we had, the intent of the article, well, I guess there's two pieces. One is it's not a 2016 ambulance, it's a 2020 ambulance, but the debt's there either way. The intent was to pay it off entirely 1 year early, but I actually literally just learned via text that it is scheduled to be paid off in 25, not in 23. So this would cover, it would still serve the same purpose. It would cover the payment out of free cash for the fiscal 23 budget, but it's going to stay on the debt schedule for fiscal 24 and 25, so it won't be paying it off.
So what's the difference
The difference in,
between just making the payments and putting it on as a warrant article?
so the debt service is funded through the general operating budget, so we're instead making that payment with free cash instead of using revenues. It's kind of wonky, but,
If we didn't think we were going to be paying it off, would we have done this?
well, that's why I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, because I think it's in some people's minds, it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Right.
But the fact of the matter still stands that in order to balance the fiscal '23 budget as presented, it's dependent upon this year's being paid off using free cash. I suppose somebody could motion to increase, or actually you can't, you can only decrease on the floor, so no, never mind.
And we just did, recently, we raised ambulance rates, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And these numbers will all be corrected for the town meeting, for the folks who get,
I'll put something, so that we can't change the language, because it's already been placed, but we'll put something supplemental
Okay.
highlighting
An amendment
the
on it?
change in circumstances.
okay?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion that we recommend Article 16 with the supplemental information for the 2020 ambulance and for the fiscal year '23 payment.
I'll second.
So motion made and seconded to recommend this with the changes that the town manager just covered.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
question. I was unable to follow the town manager's comments, but I gather that there is going to be a change in the number, in the dollar amount of this article for some reason. Is that correct?
Not the dollar amount, but there'll still be 2 more years of payments. It won't pay it off.
Did you hear that?
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
No,
the amount will not change, but it will take, instead of being paid off in fiscal year '23, there'll be 2 more years to make those payments, '24 and '25.
Okay, so it's being pushed out rather than paying off all at once. There'll be a few more payments.
There'll be 2 more years after fiscal year '23, and this is a 2020 ambulance, not a 2016 ambulance, as was put in the original article.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Could I ask another question? So, in next year's budget, will it be back in the general fund as a regular payment?
That payment would still have to be paid as part of the debt service line. So it's a $60,000 expense that we'll have to build into the budget, but there could be other items dropping off. But we're also picking up some other items too. If we don't, actually, Lynn, could you? Would you like to introduce yourself for the folks at home?
Lynn Nystrom, Treasurer Collector.
Could you speak into the mic, please? Speak into the mic.
Sorry. So the lease schedule for the ambulance, it's due to pay off on fiscal '25.
Right.
So for '24, that's the fiscal '24 payment. We're looking at paying that early this year. We won't have a payment then in fiscal '24. We'd have a payment due in fiscal '25, and that should be the final payment on it. So it may also adjust interest on it as well, but that's basically what we're doing right now. Does that answer the question? That was, yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Oh, I think you just made it worse.
So 1 more payment instead of 2 more payments.
Sounds like
Correct,
fun, yeah.
correct.
But,
But we're missing next year, but we'll have to pick it up the following year.
Well, so I just want to drill down on that a little bit, and I apologize that we're doing this on the fly. So it's paying in fiscal '23.
Correct.
So for the fiscal '23 budget. So but there's not going to be a payment in fiscal '24?
Well, we could pay the '25 payment in '24 then, or,
Oh, you're saying we just bump it down?
yeah, it would bump it down. It's basically going to be reducing it by 1 year, but it's not going to be paying it off in full. We have 1 additional payment to
But don't we already have outstanding fiscal '23, fiscal '24, and fiscal '25? So this would only pay for fiscal '23, so there would still be fiscal '24 and fiscal '25.
Or did we pay 23 last year?
No, we're paying, this is going to be paying for 23. You may be
Yeah,
right. I
so
think I
it
was
wouldn't bump down.
misunderstanding what the purpose of this was.
We'll look into this a little bit more during normal business hours tomorrow, and I'll email the board with an update.
Is there a 2016 ambulance also?
So, as far as I know, because I had texted the chief and asked, there is.
And what's the status with that?
Well, I was under the impression that we had one more year of payments on it, so we'll look into that too.
I would like to rescind my motion to recommend this article, if I could.
Did I
Okay.
second?
I think you did.
I'll rescind that. It was a while ago, now I'm all confused.
I'm just a little uncomfortable with, not with paying things, but with what we're paying and why and when.
There's a lot of details up in the air, so if I could, Mr. Vice Chair, what I'd recommend is putting off providing a recommendation until we can sort through this emergence. And then you could vote a recommendation or non-recommendation the day of the town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And I guess we have to take a vote on that. Did you hear that, Audrey?
She gave up.
No.
Basically, what's happening is a motion
I-
to,
Excuse me, Rick. I'm going to abstain at this time on this because I'm unable to follow along with the conversation, but I'll reserve my right to change my vote on town meeting floor. So that's fine.
that's what
I'm
we're
fine
going
with
to,
moving forward.
that's what we're going to make a vote, is probably town meeting floor, before the town meeting, okay?
Oh,
Do we have to vote on this?
okay.
I think we should.
Yeah, so the motion is to not make any recommendations at this time and maybe vote on town meeting floor before the town meeting when we're gathered together. So, and it's been seconded by Barbara? You seconded?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Chair. Don't we already have a motion on the floor to approve it?
I rescinded that motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, could there be an actual vote on the rescinding of that motion to make it official? If you could just vote on the
Okay.
rescinding her motion.
So what we're going to do first is vote on rescinding Danielle's original motion. So we have motion to rescind that. Did we get a second on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, no discussion. Any discussion? None? Okay, roll call vote to rescind that motion. Selectman Lapointe,
Aye.
Selectman Anderson,
Aye.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. Now we're looking at the motion to hold off making any recommendations until the evening of town meeting prior to the meeting. And that's been made and seconded. And so we'll go into roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe,
Aye.
Selectman Anderson,
Aye.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. That was a fun one. Okay.
I appreciate the transparency. Thank you.
Article 17 is the town charter amendment. You all have those before you. We've heard this one a couple times, and I think the town charter is basically changing Board of Appeals to zoning Board of Appeals, and taking out capital planning as a committee that's appointed by the Board of Selectmen, because all the boards appoint their own members. So those are the three changes from what I see.
Mr.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Selectmen recommend approval of Article 7.
17.
Beg your pardon, Article 17. Thank you.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I have one moment?
Yeah, I have questions as well. One of the questions is annual town meeting, the committee also brought charter changes before the town. And my understanding is charter changes need to go to ballot. Is that correct?
So if they're approved
At town meeting, they need to go to
they
ballot.
go to the ballot.
And so last year's were not approved on ballot, even though they were approved at town meeting. Will they be coupled with these changes?
I will go back and confirm with legal counsel, because sometimes there's a time limit. So if a certain amount of time lapses between when you vote at town meeting and when you actually bring it to a ballot, you have to bring it back to town meeting.
That is my concern, that these being far a year away apart, to make sure that we are having a complete charter, because the charter is only supposed to be revised or looked at every 5 to 10 years, according to the charter. And we want to make sure we do it properly.
I'll go back and confirm. I actually just received a text from someone else watching at home that says not to the ballot, but to the state for approval. So I'll confirm which one of those that is.
I thought, because, all right, I know it does have to go to the state, but I was under the understanding, and I know last year, that it had to go to ballot before it went to the state. It had to be approved on the ballot.
I'll confirm and update the board tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you. I just wanted a minute to read the rec one. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a motion to recommend in a second.
Is there? Oh, yeah, there is. You're right.
No other discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
I'm going to vote no until I have authorization that we're doing it properly, that I know that this is going to the proper phase. And both last year's and this year's will be covered.
Okay. Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye. Okay, that's Article 18, changes to the general bylaws, and that's making some changes at the beginning of the capital planning committee for clarity, mainly pointing out clearly who the members are. It's also getting rid of the Town of Winchendon Group Insurance and Benefit Committee, and from what I understand, that there's it's never been used. They've never had a meeting in 7 years or more. So it's not needed anymore.
And we're no longer with the GIC, right?
That is correct.
And the Recreation Commission, they wanted to go from 7 members to 9 members. They wanted also to clearly point out that it's 7 adult members and 2 full-time middle or high school students who are residing in Winchendon. They can come from Murdoch, they can come from any schools if they reside in town. And they wanted no more than 2 members of the same household should hold concurrent seats within the organization. And I think those were the only changes.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to recommend Article 18.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Made and seconded. Discussion.
Okay, I had a couple of concerns as this was presented to us on Monday, and I haven't had an opportunity to really get a lot of clarity on it. My concern is, number one, when we're talking about the Recreation Commission, was the Recreation Committee or Commission contacted to approve that 7 to 9 member increase?
The Recreation Committee contacted the Charter Committee, Bylaw Committee.
And they requested
They
it?
requested these
Okay.
changes.
That was one of my questions. The other questions are, and I think what I'm uncomfortable with is that only 2 of the seats are for students and all others must be filled by an adult.
Yes.
And my concern is because would this set a precedent for other committees? When we have, we're fortunate enough to have a student who cares enough to serve on a committee, even though it's not recreation committee, but they care enough to serve, would this in fact make them ineligible to serve? Because one part of the bylaw says that no student can serve on an adult seat. That make sense? Or to phrase it a different way, some of these committees are filled by students or have a student sitting in an adult seat because nobody's breaking down the door to serve on that committee. And those students are necessary and needed.
All I know is that the Recreation Commission felt that they would have no problem getting these 9 members. That's their words.
I know, and
Have no
it
problem
concerns
getting
me.
these.
It concerns me, and it concerns me for one of the committees that I serve on, and there is a student, and I want to keep her.
And the only thing that's changing is the number. I believe this article has always had 2 student members.
It always has, but now we're clarifying that no other student can fill an adult seat. And that is really what caused concern
Yeah.
for me.
Okay? Anyone else? Any discussion?
Can I have one moment? Okay, I just got confirmation. I know of at least one main member of that committee, the rec committee, that actually didn't know about this bylaw change until she was told about it last night. So I do have some concerns, just speaking, have we done due diligence with them about the structure? That's all.
Anything else? So we have a motion on the floor, I believe, and a second. So we'll do a roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe,
Aye.
Selectman Anderson,
No.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and Vice Chair votes aye. Okay, Article 19, see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 9 of the zoning bylaws, this entitles signs, and replacing that whole section, and we've had that section for quite a while to look at. So I'll entertain a motion on that one. Article 19.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to not recommend Article 19.
Second.
So we have a motion to not recommend Article 19 zoning bylaws amendment dealing with signs. Any discussion?
I would just for reasoning, I feel it is far too restrictive of rights of our citizens and residents that live in town, and I feel we are making things much more difficult than they need to be.
Okay, anyone else?
Sure. I have so much to say on this, but mostly I'm very concerned that should we adopt this bylaw, and I understand that it's much more detailed, but it's too detailed. We don't have the human resources, we don't have the financial resources to really follow through with this. That's concern number 1. Concern number 2 is the restrictive aspect of it. That, for instance, we had a discussion at our communication about, the town adopting more electronic signs as a means of getting information out to residents. According to these bylaws, it would be very difficult. and you want, the schools are thinking about acquiring a new electronic sign, and you want it big enough so that people can read it, and according to these bylaws, it's about road frontage. How much road frontage do you have, is how big your sign can be. And we need it big enough so that people can actually read it when they're driving by and not drive into a tree. I'm very concerned about the lack of clarity on maybe political signs. There's been a discussion that nobody even knows there's an election on Monday because there's no signage out. The new proposed sign bylaw states that there's no human signs, which would prohibit anybody from standing out and campaigning for the candidate of their choice. I have a problem with that. I think elections should be celebrated, and I like it when the town gets involved. I like it when people promote whoever it is they want to get elected, but we should be more aware of town elections and not restricting them. I don't like restricting businesses. I don't like, a lot of the aspects of this particular bylaw. It is so restrictive, and it's difficult. I found it difficult, and I would like more input from businesses in town. Was there a survey that went out before we did this and contracted this to somebody to ask businesses, how do you feel about signs? What would you like to see? Did a survey go out to residents to see if they had concerns, if they would like to see something more or something different? I don't think so, and I think we missed those important first steps.
Okay?
I think I'm done.
Okay. Selectman
You
Labrie,
let me talk some more, I'll go, bud.
Selectman Labrie, do you have anything you want to say?
No, thank you.
My personal feelings is that actually this new bylaw, the new rewriting of Chapter 9 is easier to understand than the old one. I mean, everybody says, well, it's like 14, it's many more pages than the other one. It's mainly in the graphics that it extends it the size it is, really.
I love the graphics.
The graphics, and when you look inside and read it, it hasn't changed a lot, but it gives clarity to gives you examples of these are the types of signs you can use. So I don't feel that there's any more restriction on businesses in town. I feel it clarifies for everyone, and again, that's my opinion. So we've had the discussion, and the motion is to not recommend Article 19. It's been seconded, so we'll do a roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe.
Aye.
Selectman Anderson.
Aye.
Selectman Labrie.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes no. Article 20 is the authorization for the Drinking Water and Sewer Assessment Management Project. And I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I move that the board recommend approval of Article 20.
Second.
And seconded. It's been seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
had a discussion with the DPW director earlier today, and he clarified some things. I was previously going to vote no on this article, and I would ask that you ask him to come up because I can possibly repeat what he told me. I would ask that you ask him to come up and explain why this article is there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this article is here. The town manager touched on it earlier when the board voted to approve the letter to Senator Trahan's office for the money. With this piece of information that we want to put together for the capital asset plan, it makes it so that we hit and check the boxes when applying for grants, but it also takes into consideration some of the smaller or larger pieces that are in our sewer and water system, puts a timeline on them so that when budgets are created, we're able to take that into consideration, create plans and do different aspects. But the biggest piece to take out of it is to highlight the items that need repair or need replacement, so that when we have the opportunities to apply for grant funds, we have a document that's certified by the state, because only certain engineering firms are allowed to complete this, and that's approved by the state. So it's basically a state-approved document once it's completed. So it opens up a lot of different avenues for us as a municipality and for both the enterprise accounts. Did I hit it?
Yeah, I
Thank you.
think so. That if I could just reiterate that if we do adopt this, even though it's money that is coming from the water fund, it could result or should result in a return on investment for
Correct.
many, many years on capital
So-
improvements to the water enterprise.
The asset management plan is a moving plan. It's not something we create now, and it's good for 20 years. It needs constant updating. And once the piece is done, then we're able to complete that. But you're 100% correct. It's a fluid document that needs to be maintained, but it's more of a guide for us. And it also shows the state some of our needs, so we can apply for different stuff and some of their different programs, and it makes it so that we qualify.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we have the motion on the floor. It's been seconded for Article 20. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
Mr. Vice Chair, just to clarify, the motion is to recommend the article for approval.
Yes.
Thank you. I vote aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. Article 21, which is the transfer of the Webster Street parcel to the Winchendon Redevelopment Authority. And can I get a motion?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Selectmen recommend approval of Article 21.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on Article 21? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe?
Aye.
Selectman Anderson?
Aye.
Selectman Labrie?
Aye.
And the Vice Chair votes aye. So that finishes the 21 articles. And the next on our agenda is actually assigning boss members to present these at town meeting. But before we do that, I want to thank Town Manager Salzback and his staff, the department heads and their staffs, for the work and time that's involved going through this budget process and getting to this point. I would also like to thank the members of the public who did come to our hearings and those who watch on television or any other way. And I really encourage you all to go to the town meeting and see this whole thing in action. If you've never been to a town meeting, it's quite an experience, and it's not boring. It can be very exciting. So really take part. Anyone who's watching, be at the town meeting. You'll see signs all over town when it comes time. And with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is assigning of articles. So we already passed over Article 1 for the special meeting, so we don't need that one. So anybody can jump in and say, I'll take that one. And we'll start with Article 2, payment of prior bills.
I'll take it.
Okay, Danielle has taken that. Funding of the sewer enterprise account deficit for $35,000, that's number 3.
I'll take that. This is Audrey.
Got it? Article 1 of the annual town meeting is committee reports. Do we have somebody to do that, but it's really turned over to Tom,
That is correct.
but we should have somebody. So we need somebody to volunteer for that.
Okay.
Danielle. The next one is the establishment discharge of committees.
I'll take that.
Barbara, okay, for Article 2. Article 3 is the revolving funds. I'll take that one. Article 4, senior tax write-off, work-off program.
How about Amy?
Amy? Yeah, we'll put Amy down for that. Community action support, 25,000, number 5. I'll take that one.
Thank you.
Article 6, which is the overall operating budget.
I can do that one.
You taking that one? Danielle takes that one. Article 7, Water Department Enterprise Budget.
Rick?
I'll take it. I'll have fun with it, I guess. I'll have to sit down with the town manager and go over the figures, though, for
Oh, that's right.
several times.
I would say you could have number 8 as well.
Number 8 is the wastewater enterprise budget.
They're so similar.
I'll take it. Article 9, transfer station.
I'll take it.
Oh, that's the easy one.
I know.
Article 10, the school budget.
I'll do the 2 schools, 10 and 11.
Danielle?
Doesn't the school committee do their own?
But I
Oh,
think we
yeah,
just-
sometimes they
I
do.
think we just have somebody to turn it over to them. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
Isn't
whatever.
that what the moderator does?
there's a moderator.
I would say that's how it was historically, but I feel like the last one might have been different. and I
Well, nobody
remember
from
being
the school
surprised.
committee showed up.
Right, that's true. Ouch.
Do we know from the past, is this assigned to the school?
I think it
When I
is.
was on the school committee, we read them, yes.
Not the Monty Tech one you just read, you
No,
know.
but the school budget.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
So
You
can
can
we,
put my name just in case, but if they take it, they take it.
we'll put Danielle down, but really, we need to check, make sure the school will do it.
I'll coordinate with Superintendent King.
Okay. And number 11 is the Monty Tech assessment.
How about Amy?
You want that?
Amy?
Oh, Amy, okay. And number 12 is the capital improvements, free cash for $650,000.
Mr.
Yes?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I will take the capital articles, Article 12, 13, 14, and 15.
So, that's 12, 13, 14, and 15 for Audrey.
Correct.
Okay,
Having been on the capital planning committee, I'll be glad to present those.
great. Number 16, the ambulance payment.
I'm staying away from that one for now.
No, not touching it. Amy?
Amy has that
Well,
one.
I'm glad I'm at least on the call.
By then, it'll all be figured out, and she'll have a clear presentation. Number 17 is the town charter amendment. I can take it.
Good.
That's general bylaw amendment. I'll take that one, too. Number 19, the zoning bylaw amendment.
I can take it.
Danielle will take that one. Number 20 is the drinking water sewer management project.
I can.
You want that?
Sure.
Okay. And number 21 is transfer of Webster Street parcel.
I'll take that one.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara, do you have enough? Do you
I
want
do.
some of mine? You do?
Got what I want.
Okay.
She gave all hers to Amy. And, okay, that, looking on, we have no old business. So, other than our next boss meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 9th, 2022, at 6:30 PM, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call vote. Selectman Lapointe,
Aye.
Selectman Anderson,
Aye.
Selectman Labrie,
Aye.
and the Vice Chair votes aye. We're adjourned.